Have you ever stood in front of a liquor shelf and wondered why a $40 or $50 bottle of bourbon doesn't feel like it's worth the money you spent? For months, bartenders and independent tasters have compared tasting data, production profiles, and actual retail prices to discover something interesting. Many bourbons on the shelf aren't bad, but they have one notable thing in common. The gap between the story the brand tells and what the spirit actually delivers in the glass is sometimes wider than we think. And that gap is exactly what makes buyers pay more than the true value. In this video, we will go through 7 bourbons often mentioned in bartender conversations, starting from the 7th spot and working our way to the 1st. What makes these bottles so controversial? Top 7. Garrison Brothers Texas Straight Bourbon. At number 7 is Garrison Brothers Texas Straight Bourbon, a bottle often cited as a symbol of Texas pride. Founded in 2006, it was the state's first legal whiskey distillery since Prohibition. That in itself creates a compelling narrative. The hot and harsh Texas climate causes wooden barrels to expand and contract constantly, accelerating the interaction between the spirit and the wood much faster than in cooler climates. The idea sounds appealing, but it is that very acceleration that creates the point of contention. Their small batch version often retails for $75 to $90, while the age is usually only about 2 to 4 years. When tasting, many notice a quite strong oak flavor, bold vanilla, and a hot finish, as if the spirit was pulled from the barrel before the flavor development process was truly complete. That doesn't mean it's undrinkable, but the question many are starting to ask is, can accelerated aging ever truly substitute for decades of time and experience in barrel management? Top 6. Angel's Envy. Angel's Envy is a name that carries a venerable story. The brand's founder is Lincoln Henderson, one of the famous master distillers in the whiskey industry who spent decades at Brown-Forman before creating Angel's Envy with his son in 2011. The unique feature of this bottle is the finishing process in port wine barrels, which brings a sweetness of dried fruit and a fairly soft finish. In the early years, many bourbon lovers were genuinely excited about this project because it reflected Henderson's experience and creativity. But in 2015, the brand was sold to Bacardi for about $150 million. When a small brand becomes a nationally distributed product, production volume must increase and manufacturing processes must change to meet market demand. The bottle still maintains its easy drinking flavor, and the signature curved bottle design is still beautiful. However, at the $50 to $60 price point, many people begin to wonder if the current quality still reflects the original creative spirit. Is this still a craft project from a master distiller, or has it become a major brand with an old story kept for show? Top 5. Bulliet Bourbon. Bulliet Bourbon is one of the most successful brands in terms of image in the whiskey world. The thick glass bottle with a frontier-style paper label gives the impression of a small distiller in the wilderness. That image worked very effectively during the craft cocktail boom. Many bartenders like using Bulliet because its high rye mash bill provides a clear spiciness, dried orange peel, and black pepper, helping the spirit stand out in cocktails. But behind that rugged exterior is a different reality. The brand is now owned by Diageo, a multinational corporation behind giants like Johnnie Walker or Guinness. That doesn't make the whiskey bad, but it creates a gap between the brand image and production reality. When sipped neat, many notice the mid-palate is quite short, and the finish can sometimes be slightly bitter depending on the batch. At a price of about $30 to $35, questions begin to arise. Are we paying for the flavor in the glass, or for the frontier image the label is telling? Top 4. Jefferson's Ocean. Jefferson's Ocean is one of the most interesting marketing ideas in the bourbon world. This line of whiskey is placed on ships and sent around the ocean, crossing the equator multiple times. During that journey, the barrels are exposed to high temperatures, salty air, constant movement, and intense expansion cycles. The idea sounds like a fascinating scientific experiment, and it certainly generated a lot of press attention when it launched in 2012. However, when independent tasting panels conducted blind tastings, the results weren't as clear as the marketing story. Many had difficulty distinguishing Jefferson's Ocean from traditional bourbons that cost only about $40. In the glass, the whiskey carries familiar traits like caramel and oak, sometimes with a slight saltiness that some believe comes from the sea air. But others argue that sensation only appears because they read the story on the label before drinking. With prices typically ranging from $60 to $90, the question becomes very interesting. Are we paying for actual flavor or for the wooden barrel's sea voyage? Top 3. Meister's U.S. One Small Batch. Meister's U.S. One Small Batch is a bourbon sold at a relatively high price point thanks to its long historical narrative. The brand often mentions a Pennsylvania distillery with roots dating back to 1753, which, if true, would make it one of the oldest whiskey production facilities in the U.S. However, that distillery closed in 1990. The current company later bought the brand name and rebuilt operations in Louisville. This creates a rather complex marketing story. The spirit itself is actually quite easy to drink. The aroma carries caramel, toasted oak, and dried fruit. The palate is balanced and smooth with a light sweet vanilla that isn't too harsh. No one denies that this is a good bourbon. The issue lies in the $45 to $55 price range. When standing in front of the liquor shelf, buyers will see Buffalo Trace or Elijah Craig Small Batch at significantly lower prices that still offer a comparable, and in many cases even more complex, experience. This leads many bartenders to ask the question, are buyers paying for the quality of the whiskey or for the historical story that comes with it? Top 2. Basil Hayden's. Basil Hayden's is a very recognizable bourbon thanks to its tall, slender bottle design with a metal ring around the label. It sits on the shelf at a price of about $40 to $45 and is often seen as a premium choice for bourbon beginners. But when looking closely at the specs, an important detail emerges. Its alcohol content is only 80 proof, the legal minimum for bourbon. The brand was created in 1992 as part of Jim Beam's small batch collection with a clear goal: to make bourbon more approachable for wine drinkers or those wary of strong whiskey. Consequently, the flavor is very light, with soft caramel, light spice, and a fairly short finish. This makes the whiskey easy to drink for many, but also leaves it lacking depth. When compared on the same shelf, 100 proof Knob Creek or 100 proof Old Forester often offer more layers of flavor at a similar or lower price. It is this discrepancy between the price and the intensity of flavor that has made Basil Hayden's a name frequently mentioned in bartender discussions. Top 1. Hudson Baby Bourbon. Hudson Baby Bourbon tops this list for a rather special reason. It was one of the first craft bourbons to capture media attention when it launched in 2006 in New York. At that time, the concept of bourbon produced outside of Kentucky was still very new. Hudson quickly became a symbol of the craft whiskey movement and appeared in many bars and food magazines. In 2010, the brand was acquired by William Grant & Sons for about $12 million. But the detail that surprises many is the bottle size. Hudson Baby Bourbon is typically sold in 375 milliliter bottles, which is only half the standard size. At a price of $40 to $50, that means the actual price can reach $80 to $100 per liter. The whiskey is made from 100% New York corn and is typically aged for under 4 years. When drinking it, many notice a clear, sweet corn flavor. The alcohol is still a bit harsh, and the finish is quite short. This leads to an interesting question. Are we buying a bottle of bourbon, or are we buying the story of a bottle of bourbon? The bourbons on this list aren't bad whiskeys. Many of them are perfectly drinkable and even quite easy to enjoy. But what they have in common is the gap between the brand story and the actual experience in the glass. When that gap is larger than the true value of the whiskey, the buyer is the one paying for that difference. If you found this video interesting, please leave your thoughts on a bourbon you've tried. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to discover more interesting stories about the world of whiskey.